I'm just going to give everybody a few seconds to trickle in before we get started. Okay, looks like we are good to go. Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Marcella Plosky, and I am ERP-One Sales Coordinator and your host for today's session. Before we dive in, I'll give you a quick introduction to ERP-One and who we are. ERP-One is a trusted ERP solutions provider specializing in JD Edwards. Our services include consulting across technical, application, development, and project management areas. We also offer long-term support through staff augmentation and managed services. With over 20 years of experience, our team works as an extension of our clients' teams, delivering a client-centric approach that helps organizations maximize the value of their ERP investment. Today's presentation, Unlocking Efficiency with Release 25, Enhancements to E1 Package Build Process, is led by Nick Wilson. Nick is ERP-One's Innovation and Technology Lead and has been with ERP-One for over 15 years now, bringing extensive expertise in project management, digital transformation, architecture design and review, as well as upgrade planning and execution. And before we begin, a few housekeeping notes. If you have any questions during the presentation, feel free to drop them in the comment box and we will address them during the Q&A at the very end. And don't worry if you miss anything, this is being recorded and we will share the recording with you afterwards via email. With that, I will hand it over to Nick to get us started. Thank you and enjoy.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Marcella, and thank you to everyone for joining the webinar today. This session, like some of the previous ones, we're going to be looking at some enhancements with JD Edwards, specifically those included with Release 25. These enhancements are really focused around two primary features that have been released. The package build deploy or package deploy orchestration or automation. And we're going to dive into how that fits into some of the existing features. I've covered some of those in previous webinars, and this closes the loop on one of the automation steps that you can implement yourself. Afterwards, we are going to look at a really big feature and enhancement, which will enhance or optimize, called optimized package build. And this feature for the system admins out there will greatly enhance or reduce the package build time with a few different innovations that we're going to dive into. Before I continue, if there are any questions, please, as Marcella said, mention them in the chat and I will try to answer them at the end. In terms of the purpose of this meeting or of this webinar, we're really here to look at providing technical details of the features and where it will bring value to you, the E1 customer. I'll touch on a little bit of some implementation approaches from our perspective and hopefully provide some of my experience or ERP-One's experience along the way. And so why are we looking at these features? And really, the question is, why should we upgrade? And so upgrading allows us to get value out of our E1 system. And these features and the value that Oracle is providing is released through tools and ESUs. So for today, what we're looking at are these package enhancements, which will provide, the following value here. Package builds will be able to be reduced by up to 85%. That is a huge gain. And if you are in the scenario where package builds are a little bit of a pain in your environment, this will come with great news to you guys. We also are going to look at the adoption or what the value here of in terms of the package automation will allow us to adopt full builds, streamline operations, sorry, where it can automate the deployment process through our package deploy orchestration. And all of this will reduce time and reliance on the development and deployment servers. I'll stop for that one for a moment here and comment that the reason that we are the value of reducing the deployment and development servers comes in the form of a few different ways. Where when systems are set up, utilizing these servers is a little bit of a CNC or a system admin job. And the amount of work that goes into those, building those, maintaining those servers can be reduced by not utilizing them essentially. So let's move on to the package automation. And really, this is system automation. That is one arm of Oracle's product features. They have a second arm called the digital platform, which is where orchestrations lie. And so this feature really marries the two together, looking at implementing an Oracle delivered solution where you can apply package automation with these UDOs or orchestrations developed under the digital platform. So when looking at package automation, the package build process is really complicated, but critical to the overall ecosystem, especially in terms of change management or DevOps, where we're applying customizations as well as release management or continuous delivery when we want to apply changes either in the form of ESUs or tools releases in a scheduled manner. And when looking at it, right, these two administration purpose or the two reasons here, there is a lot of package builds that are utilized within both change management and release management. And so the life cycle is depicted on the right-hand side, but throughout the process, we can implement this package automation in various ways. And trying to hone in on where we would apply package automation. In a simplistic form, it comes in when we promote objects between environments. Whenever we are doing development, we would need a package build to see those changes in the development environment. Once it's completed and we would want to push those changes to PY for testing, we would need more package builds. And then finally, as things change and get promoted into production, we need a package build within there. And so this process is highly linked with other resources, other members of your internal team or the project team. And these processes can slow the package build process, can slow down a lot of the progress and limit solutions, or at least the speed in which solutions can be deployed to production. So diving into some of the details, and I won't get too technical on this feature, but when looking at package build and deploy, the old school method was to utilize the development or deployment server. We would use the fact client and go through the process of define and build and deploy. Looking ahead from a feature set, Oracle has delivered or webified the process so that we can run the package build process on a web client. This allows, a new generation of CNCs and system admins who are not as familiar with the fact client to use it a lot more easily, and then to define it and kick off the package build process. Further to that, however, it sets us up for automation and orchestration. So looking at a diagram here on the left, the old school method utilized the the CNC, and they would have to log into a deployment or a development client and then execute the package build process. But on the new method, we were able to, instead of the deployment server, we log on right to the web server and then configure and define our package build process there. There were some technical changes that happened for, again, those system admins on the call where the process is moved off of the deployment server in terms of the client and server builds or UBEs that run, and instead are run on the enterprise server. And that was a cog that was required for webifying the process. So now we get to what is new in release 25. I apologize. Sorry. What that gets us to is the ability to orchestrate these package build processes. So we can see that the process happens on the web, and Oracle has delivered in previous releases the package assemble, definition, and build process from a orchestration perspective, but they were unable to deliver the orchestration to do a deployment. And the reason for that was another technical reason in terms of the form that was used for the deploy and a roadblock with orchestrations. With release 25 or tools release 929, they have removed that roadblock on the code side. So the package deploy process or programs, the P9631, is updated, and the orchestration itself also, or the AIS server, is now able to call those forms, the deploy style of form. And so Oracle has delivered the package deploy orchestration that can be utilized by customers once they upgrade to release 25. So diving into these orchestrations, they work in the same way that other orchestrations work, where you define the API, publish the API, but this orchestration or API requires some definition or inputs. And the build process, we define the inputs that I've highlighted here at the top, where we need to put a package name, specify whether it's an update or a full package, as well as what objects will be in the update package, the language, and if there's a feature. After the definition in the build phase or assembly phase, sorry, after the build is assembled, we need to define which servers are included, as well as a health check, and then submit the build. So all of that was delivered as an orchestration previously, and these values would be passed into the system via an end user interface, which would need to be custom, or if in your internal team, there is an IT management or IT operations software utilized or middleware, you could orchestrate these steps and have them as part of your overall change management or automated system. They can be used in many other ways, either directly by a CNC or system admins to make their lives easier. And again, rather than logging into the web client and doing all of these steps, if you know all of these values ahead of time, you can just call the API and you can build your package. And so when we layer in the latest release, the automated package deploy, we would do the same approach where the server or where the API or the orchestration would also need the package name and the server that you would want to deploy it to. Once we have that, we can execute this orchestration, and behind the scenes on the enterprise server, that package would be built and then deployed to the environment that you're logged into. And so these tools are usually utilized as part of a change management process here. And looking at E1 and OMW, which is my favorite form of change management model, you can integrate this package build and deploy automation as part of your project promotions. And so when a project is promoted from DV into PY, we know a lot of information that is part of there, and mainly the objects as well as the different environments can be extrapolated by OMW. And again, if integrating with a change management system, you can utilize some of these values and create or integrate this orchestration to help facilitate automated package builds where most of the inputs are defined for us here. That, however, solves the technical challenge, but there are other challenges that exist in change management around notifications, workflow in terms of approvals, and as well as some notifications and reporting. All of those other roadblocks can be handled with different UDOs, which we won't dive into today, but can be implemented. And so this is more of an art of the possible for system admins to utilize in their teams. So we talked a lot about the feature itself here and how would we implement it. Really, we would want to look at enhancing this project status concept by, as I mentioned, automating the package build steps, configuring workflow, and then, of course, utilizing our features. When we integrate this into our customers, we go through these following steps with the customer in terms of enabling the E1 feature to accelerate this implementation. So some of these features need to be turned on. They need to be implemented at the UDO level, as well as being on the right tools release. Once that is completed, we would map out the package build process and turn it into an automated flow that can fit into our transfer activity rules, OMW roles. We would utilize the process recorder as well as the orchestration studio to fine tune some of these components and utilize workflow, which is another studio component, to handle the approvals. Finally, many different UDOs can be utilized to help with watch lists or to help with the process, such as watch lists, different grids, saved queries, and other components to help isolate data and perform queries to get things like the deployed package and other components. So in summary here, the main benefits are an autonomous system admin, providing or reducing manual process options that can be utilized without development or deployment servers, saves administration and deployment time and effort, as well as streamlining the process itself. Okay, so that was the one feature, which is the orchestrations. The next feature is the optimized package build. And again, this one is near and dear to my heart. I have spent many a time building lots of packages, thousands of packages. And this feature slash change to the process is really valuable. And so implementing a full package, you can today, or if you're on 928, implement, or sorry, I think it was released in 925, zero downtime package deployment. But with a full package, the build takes up to 8 hours. And so that really is not ideal for building often. And update packages still require server locks. And so Oracle has made it more efficient to, again, reduce the package build time as much as 85%. Encouraging full builds over update packages in some scenarios or a lot of scenarios. And then again, utilizing the zero downtime package deployment. And all we need to do to implement all of this great stuff is when building the package, either in an automated way or in a manual way, all we need to do is check off this box that I've highlighted on the left there to build just the net changed objects. And I'll go through here in a few diagrams of how JD Edwards does this. And really, this is a graphic that shows the delta. And again, how JD Edwards does this is by building only the delta of what has changed. And that comes in the form of a full package through central objects and the package specs. It also covers, the delta of the business functions, and that is the primary way, thing that has been reduced here, or a change that has happened. So, in the previous or old school way, JD Edwards would build all of the business functions, every full package, which is why it took, or part of the reason why it took up to 8 hours or 6.5 hours. The new way of, for one of the reasons that they've optimized it is by only building just the business functions that are required and then streamlining the process. I've created a diagram here to show the old way, and I know that it's a bit confusing here, but across the top is the enterprise server, and this is the old method of doing the package build. And you can see we start from initializing the package build, going through copying and retrieving files, which would take 1 hour, generating the named event rules, and then in parallel building the business functions would take up to 2 hours as well. From there, all of these specs are recompiled and then copied back to the deployment server, which then would kick off another similar process where the business functions would build locally on the deployment server, as well as building the BSSVs. Finally, if we selected compressed directories, that would take additional time, and then our build would be completed. And so what Oracle has done is, on top of building just the net change, and the total amount of time, sorry, this is what I meant to show, with 928 and below would be up to 6.5 hours or more, depending on your environment. And as I mentioned, this is quite long. So in the new method, what happens is both the enterprise server portion and the deployment server portion get built and are executed in parallel. And what is happening inside each of these servers has changed as well. On the enterprise server side, the main change happens in this second step. After we copy the deployed package files, there's a new process which retrieves the net changes. And so this does require an existing full package to be there. And so the first step would be to have a full package that does take 6.5 hours. But once that's completed and is a good without any errors, a good package without errors, the process will compare against the changed files within the package, which this process can do much more easily because central objects are stored on the database server, or on the database, as well as the package specs. And it then generates a manifest. And so rather than building all of the new components, it will only build just or generate the NERs that are changed. Subsequently, only the business functions that have changed will be built. And when that happens, there is a parallel task across the bottom where the deployment server will also be copying the package files, where previously that was happening sequentially. So we have the enterprise server copy at the same time as the deployment server copy. And similarly, we are building the BSSV portion as well. And again, in the previous method, we would do that sequentially. When we get to that stage, after getting the net file manifest, we then are waiting on both sides of the system to build the business functions. And that really is to ensure that the client side is waiting for the net change to complete, which is the second step on the enterprise server. Finally, we still would compress the directories, but the net result is that with 929, our package build process goes from 6.5 hours down to an hour and 5 minutes. And this, again, is a great improvement to building and deploying the package. It allows customers to build more full packages more often, as well as utilizing the zero downtime deployment, which allows web servers and users to remain on the system, and these package changes to be deployed to the web server, and then the web server will automatically switch over to the new package once a new session is provided. And so all of that, it was existing features as of 925. So I won't go through the step here other than to highlight a couple key things here, but I mentioned that the initial full package, you need to run it the same way as before. The builds run in parallel, which again is different and saves a lot of time, as well as building the net change objects, which it's retrieved from the repository. Finally, the next feature, the last feature, which improves performance, is that the build happens on a multi-threaded sort of view. The specs themselves are built on one thread, but the other threads are utilized for the other processes. So looking at in terms of performance, really the key here is not just the net change, but running processes in parallel. And we can see that there is quite a increase in performance when we compare 928 to 929. We highlight here all of the different components that happen in parallel on the left versus the optimized on the right. And we can see on the right-hand side, we can see the graph that indicates the multi-threadedness of the builds. Splitting up the performance components between the server package, we can see that the different components running on the old way versus the new way are a lot more efficient themselves. This is because they are running both in parallel, as well as the process has been improved upon. And so the retrieving files, generating named event rules, and building the business functions have all been optimized so that we're not processing the entire central objects data set. We're only processing the changed objects. Similarly, on the client side, the build business function is the main increase in performance, as well as there is no need to copy the files with this new process because it leverages the central objects inside of the database. And so that brings us to the end of our presentation. And the last note from me is that if you're interested in understanding how either of these features could fit into your organization, the process would look like, reaching out to Marcelo or myself. We would organize a 30-minute conversation, and then on our end, prepare an environment so that we could deliver a demo to show you exactly what we had uncovered and how you can utilize these for yourself. And so with that, I will hand it back over to Marcella, and we can talk through some questions.
Awesome. Thanks, Nick. We have time for one quick question. If we are currently utilizing an automated package build solution, not Oracle, can we implement the optimized full build?
Yes, that's a great question. And certainly that, depending on your approach or the solution that you have, it could be uplifted to utilize the new build process. But because this is a new feature, I think that going back to the developer, or if it was we would need to look at uplifting how it would utilize that check mark there. In terms of orchestrations, though, that would happen right away, and it could be uplifted to utilize those orchestrations that we initially talked about, and then incorporating the full package as part of your automation. So that's a great question.
Amazing. Thanks, Nick. We are at time, so I will wrap it up for us quickly here. Thank you so much for joining us today. And as I mentioned earlier, I will be sending out an email to all the attendees with a recording of the session, along with a post-webinar survey. If you do complete our survey, we will send over a Starbucks gift card as a token of our appreciation. And if you are interested in the demo that Nick mentioned, you can simply respond to that email, and I will help coordinate a time for a demo. In the meantime, feel free to connect with us on LinkedIn. We're always regularly sharing helpful tips, insights, and blog posts, and we hope to see you at our next webinar. Thanks again, and have a great day.
Thank you.